It is something that is astonishing that the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer of the universe, the one we pray to because he has unlimited strength, he can, being conquered by the devotion of his devotees. And still, in Dwarka, there is a conception still of opulence. For example, when Narada Muni came, he went to visit each of Krishna's palace, and he could see 16,108 palaces with a form of Krishna in each palace. And he was doing his duty as a family leader, and differently in every palace. It's something that is amazing. But Krishna stays. But in Vrindavan, Krishna is much more than that. He's much more conquered by the devotion of his devotees. We see in certain scriptures, they explain how Krishna, although he is the most beautiful, there are wonderful descriptions. For example, when Srimati Radharani, she thinks about Krishna, she thinks about his different limbs, which are just like lotuses. His eyes, his hands, his forehead, his face. And she remembers from how in each lotus there's a wonderful fragrance that comes out of it. It is explained that Krishna's body also has a fragrance. And Krishna also puts a fragrance on his body. So these three fragrances enlivens all the living entities. But the one who has this faculty to mesmerize the living entities is also hypnotized by one person, Srimati Radharani. And for example, we know that Dhanishta, she has a very particular relationship because at the same time she is with Mother Yashoda. She comes to give information to Srimati Radharani. And when Srimati Radharani, she sees Dhanishta, she sees her like a river of bliss because she understands that news will come about her beloved. It's particular. For her, Dhanishta, it's just like a river of ecstasy when she moves, because we have to understand that Srimati Radharani, when she remembers Krishna, naturally, she is absorbed in her beloved and in his qualities. But when she sees Dhanishta, she sees the same ocean of ecstasy personally manifested in her. It's very particular. And because she's really troubled, there's a double trouble because there's a meeting. There's a strong feeling. She says, "Where are you coming from?" And then she says, "I go to Vrindavan." Nandagram? She says, "I'm going to Nandagram." And she asks, "Who did you see there?" And she explains, "Krishna." She says she saw Krishna at Govardhan Hill. He was taking care of the cows. So this feeling of Srimati Radharani, she expresses it through questions, and Dhanishta answers, finally, through this behavior that Krishna himself is fascinated by her. And in this fascination, he is tortured and he suffers. And so the advice that her friends are giving her is to go save Krishna. So we see that Krishna in this situation in Vrindavan is really conquered. And it is something that is very difficult to understand. When we chant without offenses, and we read these scriptures, these texts, so there's a revelation internally, and we can gradually enter into the pastimes, truly be mesmerized and be completely intoxicated by the intensity of the nectar that this contains. This, we can start to chant at this level, at the level of Ruchi Ashakti. There's taste and there's attachment. And attachment manifests by a revelation. When there's revelation of the text, attachment comes. And when truly the text becomes like an entrance in Krishna's pastimes, so love manifests. That is why the texts of the Acharyas are no ordinary texts. They're not ordinary. It is truly the transcendental world. So when we chant and we meditate on these texts, if someone has a purity, automatically the experience follows. This is why we always have a meditation. It's very important. Meditation on the text, sacred text, is very important because the name reveals the pastime. Everything is contained. But as long as we don't perceive and we're not introduced in the kingdom of the Lord, we need the information to meditate. We read, we meditate. We read, we meditate. We read, we meditate. And it will give a taste. According to a qualification, we should read text that gives us taste. Everyone has a different qualification and especially a different rasa. We must understand it, and it's very important that the living entity, although he is not an eternal associate of the Supreme Lord, he also has at the same time also a svarup, a form, an eternal form, and an eternal feeling that cannot be changed. This feeling cannot be changed. Out of us, we have a particular form that cannot change. That's what the Acharyas explain. Shuddadvaiti Maharaj, he wrote a beautiful book on that. And he explains that those who say something else, it's not our sampradaya, because all the Acharyas speak about this. When other points are given, it is a kind of deviation from our Acharyas. So automatically, according to our eternal nature, we will develop a taste and attraction for specific text. And also we must find a spiritual master that can inspire us in our rasa. It's very important because he explains that the Acharyas explain that if we have a guru which is not in our rasa cannot awaken, and it's very important. This is why at a certain moment, although we took initiation from a person, if this person does not have the qualification for the rasa, or she is not situated in our rasa, Krishna will make an arrangement so that we meet an associate of the Lord, so that he can nourish our eternal feeling and awaken us. And then at this moment, our knowledge, our relationship with Krishna will manifest. It is something that is really important. And then at this moment, we'll be able to have a meditation, more precise meditation on our mood. And we'll have an experience of the pastimes of the Lord with ourselves. We'll have an experience of our role in these services. And this is something, finally, that is the goal of existence. The goal of existence is to absorb ourselves in our reality. So how does this happen? Are they things that we do prematurely, or in reality, it is just like like everything else. A child, he knows how to walk. When he's born, he has this propensity in him to walk, but he needs help. That's what we call Vaidhi Bhakti. That means the rules that our Acharyas give us, the instructions of the spiritual master, they're there to allow us to awaken our attitude. At the beginning, since we're not conscious of our spiritual form and an eternal feeling and our eternal service, of a group, etc., we are simply conscious of the body. So what will the spiritual master do? Is to engage our body, to purify all this material contamination. And when the heart is completely pure, and we can fix our consciousness in devotional service constantly, this is the stage of Nishta. So naturally, we will gradually feel an attraction for Krishna. And this attraction will more and more refine itself until we start to realize that we have a different nature from the one we developed in the material world. For example, in the material world, the best nature we can have is to identify as a devotee of the Lord, a Vaishnava. This is the highest level, but this is not sufficient. This is in mode of goodness. But when we go beyond this stage, we will feel inside of us that we're another entity. And gradually this entity will take over as we progress over the identification that we have in this world. And without we desire it, without we want it, we will start to speak to people but do our service internally, without even people can see it. And we'll eat, we'll be able to meditate on these pastimes. We'll do Mangalarti, we'll be able to meditate on these pastimes. So it happens without we push it. Without we push. At the beginning, it is explained. We're not completely fixed. Sometimes we have the experience, sometimes we don't. Sometimes there's the experience, sometimes there's not. Sometimes for a long time there's no experience, sometimes there's experience. That's what we call bhakti that is not fixed. There's high and low. So we could say, but I'm always a devotee, no? We speak about the internal state. But gradually, the state will increase. And at some point it will be constant. That's what we call the Uttama. The Uttama devotee is someone who constantly is in an internal meditation, even at night, even when he sleeps. There's no tamas. There's no identification with the body. He is always conscious of his service. It is really elevated. That's what we call a pure devotee. This is the Uttama Bhakta. This Uttama, he is considered like the person that can awaken feelings in us. Why? Because he himself is in his feelings, experiencing these feelings. So if you approach a devotee who is situated at that level, automatically your own feelings can gradually appear. But, of course, what should be your relationship with a person of that level is to come like a beggar. It means we are conscious of the treasure that the devotees have, the devotee, and we were not wrong by the appearance, and we are in the proximity of a devotee with this desire to receive this treasure. Otherwise, we receive nothing. We receive according to the consciousness that we have. So if we are not situated truly in this begging, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It is even offending because we are in front of a pure devotee and we don't even consider what he has inside of him. We consider him to be an ordinary being. If you do not think like that, you think simply that your guru is an ordinary being. So then you stay an ordinary being. If you think that your guru is qualified, so you will obtain qualification. That's how it works. It cannot work otherwise. Because what you perceive, the Guru will give it to you. So you can cheat yourself, but he's always your best friend. There's a verse where Krishna says, Yatamam prapadyante, I reciprocate. And the Guru is the same thing. If our vision of the Guru is mediocre, we'll receive nothing from the Guru. If our vision of the Guru is internal, we can understand what he has in his heart, so then we will receive. That's why some disciples they receive, some disciples they don't receive. And still, for example, those who are associated with Prabhupada for 20 years, but they are devotees of Prabhupada, but there's nothing. They just have a vision of Prabhupada, an external vision of Prabhupada. They never realize internally Prabhupada. Why? Because it was not a desire. Because it didn't have disqualification or begging. So who does that in the heart? It's Krishna. Krishna, he reveals these things. Even if an Acharya is gone, Krishna is still present. Because Krishna is in the heart. He can keep the relationship, he can give everything. So this is the mystery of Krishna when Krishna says, approach my pure devotee, the one who saw me, or the one who knows me. Offer him your obeisances. Inquire from him. What is the nature of this obeisance? What is the nature of asking something to the Guru? In fact, it is an attitude. Although externally we ask a question, internally we want this treasure. And it is explained that the Vaishnava is ready to give the treasure. He's ready to give the treasure, but we really need a very humble attitude and very surrendered. It's like this. We need truly to be like a prolongation, like an expansion of the instruction of the spiritual master. When a disciple truly efficient with the instruction of the spiritual master, so he can understand the heart of the Guru. In proportion he has faith in the instruction, in proportion he has a vision. Because just like the instruction of the spiritual master is not different from his heart, that is why the Guru gives instructions for his disciple, so that he can obtain his heart, not simply to make him work like a slave. You understand? To have money, to have things, exploitation. No. The pure devotee, why he engages the disciple, is so that Krishna can reveal himself, can reveal the nature of the spiritual master, and so that he can introduce the disciple in his kingdom. Why would a Vaishnava give an instruction? It's not to exploit people, it's to give himself. When a Vaishnava gives an instruction, he gives himself. So what he gives? What he has. If he has no qualification, he gives nothing. He gives instruction on puja. But if he has a transcendental qualification, if this disciple is sincere, he receives that. This is something that concerns Krishna. Krishna is the judge. Who is the guardian of the nectar? Of the Vaishnava, it's Krishna. Krishna does not give the Vaishnava to anybody. He says, this one. Sometimes he criticizes him. He becomes angry at him. He won't receive it. Krishna, he knows everything of the relationship we have with the Guru. He knows everything of the words we say, of our anger. So we really need a perfect attitude. That's true. For example, the other day, Radha, they said something about her child. And Krishna said, oh, she's not ready. This is the nature of the Lord. Krishna, he wants really that we are really, that we always understand the nature of the Vaishnava. For example, it is explained that Prabhupada, for example, he said when the Brahmana is angry, we should always smile and be respectful, surrendered. In the same way, Prabhupada says that we should always satisfy the spiritual master, always give them happiness. Never be a source of sadness to the Guru. Never. This is why the perfect disciple, and it's rare, perfect disciple is always trying to fulfill the heart of the Guru. And he obtains everything. He obtains everything because at one point what happens? The Guru becomes indebted. When it's constant, he becomes indebted and he gives everything. Krishna says, okay, you can give, and he becomes a pure devotee. And he is introduced in the transcendental world. He has an experience of the transcendental world. He has an experience of the Guru. He has an experience of Srimati Radharani. It is not complicated. From there, he starts to feel who he is, and he starts to see. This is the stage of Ashakti. When Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when the pure devotee becomes really pure, when the devotee becomes pure, we can see Krishna. It appears in our heart. It appears. We feel. We start to feel who we are. It starts to appear. Bhav, it starts really. Because that material energy stops to disturb us. And from there, is only under the shelter of the spiritual energy. So if he is under the shelter of the internal energy, that means there's no forgetfulness, there's no ignorance. So it is something that is gradual. It is something that is gradual, but what we know, what's important, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explained that if the spiritual master is qualified so naturally, if the spiritual master is satisfied, then Krishna is satisfied. And that's what is not easy. Because to have a good attitude and to find the person with whom we have a complete faith and the desire to surrender, it's not so easy. It's not so easy. It's not so simple. Because in this material world, all the living entities have motivations, material motivations. And it's not so easy to find someone really qualified, to whom we can give our heart, to whom we make sure we're never cheated. And the experience is bitter to be cheated by the Guru. But we must understand that Guru is not necessarily physical. It's also Sri Guru. That means Krishna uses a person to make us progress. So even if we have bad experiences, it's not a problem. Krishna, if we are sincere, he will come to help us. There's never no loss. If we have a bad experience, that means that we needed to receive it. We needed to learn something. And something in us had to go. By that bad experience, we don't want to repeat the same thing, and it's important. And the bad experience, it is also caused by a bad mentality that we have. Because someone who is pure, he sees simply the mercy of Krishna everywhere. So we progress, but we need to progress. And Krishna must be merciful, it's a principle. He understands our situation. He understands our mistakes. He accompanies us. That's true. If he will condemn us, nobody could progress. Everyone sees faults in others. Everyone becomes angry. This is why when we progress and we understand that we were accompanied to the same degree, we can forgive everything and we can tolerate everything. But not before. As long as we don't feel Krishna in our heart, as long as we don't feel Vrindavan in our heart, as we don't feel who we are truly, we cannot understand that we're accompanied life after life. And the Lord tolerated so much from us. It is only at this time that we can become tolerant and forgive. Always forgive. Because we'll want to desire the good, the ultimate good of living beings, just like we receive good, just like others did good to us. And then we become a sadhu. That is, what is a sadhu? A sadhu means whatever a person does to us, we will see good. He will forgive. He will tolerate. And it is something that is really important. We should meditate on this. If there's no tolerance, if there's no forgiveness, if there's no mercy, that means there's no connection there. So what does that mean? That it is that we are in a state of suffering. That means externally we have a dress, but internally we cannot taste the nectar of devotional service. But we should not be discouraged. No, it doesn't matter. It's just a question of time. Anyway, Krishna will not abandon you, even if you depress, even if you lament yourself. This lamentation, this depression is not the way to make it. Because when we do this, it is that we don't accept the path of the Acharyas. There's a path, and we should all go together. When we lament, that means we leave. We take out the hand of our friend, and we go on another side, and we pout. And then we're not on the path. We cry for the path, but we forgot there's a path, and we just have to walk on it. No, what we have to do is very important, is that we must take the hand of the Vaishnava, and to go on his path, to walk in the footsteps of the Vaishnava. Why we say we are Rupanugas? Because we follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. So, this path, it is on the path of master to disciple. Master to disciple is just like a chain. It's not like we go in a corner, we pout and we isolate ourselves. It doesn't work. We don't obtain bhakti like that. You can pout for 20 years, nothing will work, nothing will come. But as soon as you follow the Vaishnava and you do what they tell you, then you become happy. There's a need to be happy. It's a joyful path. We free ourselves from ignorance through joy. This is our path. It's not a path of austerity. There's no austerity. We dance, we chant, we feast. But our austerity is that we take our hands and we follow in the footsteps. We're guided. We don't do like we want. As soon as we do like we want, this is the problem. And as soon as the problem will come, we'll disconnect ourselves. Disconnection means suffering. Suffering means lamentation. This is why it's really important to study. Many devotees don't study. If there's no study, we cannot understand the path. We cannot understand the process. And if we don't understand the process, we will do what we think is good, but this is our path. This is not the path we were shown. If we study, we will be inspired and will be enlightened. This is the path. If we don't study, there's no light. And in the darkness, we don't know where we go. And then it's the problem. We're lost. There's no taste in our spiritual life. So it's important. Even if you don't study long time, that's not a problem. It's not the quantity. What's important is to study with consciousness, to follow in the footsteps of the Acharyas. And that is what is really important. Because like a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam says, the method that the Acharyas show by his own example, Krishna accepts it. Like the authentic path. This is why we must simply study and accept the path of our Acharyas. And then we will go back to Krishna. Be without doubt on this. Because some They already experience it. That means it works. That means it's just a question of time. Thank you very much.